Rogers TV on what in its first year seems to have already taken hold as the National Signing Day. We bring in Steve Hellwagon from Bucknuts on 247 Sports to help us break down the Ohio State class. Steve, we appreciate you jumping on board. Now you've got a ton of stuff that you're working on these days with bowl preparations and also this recruiting class with 2 5-stars, 16 4-stars. I don't think there would have been any question that this was decidedly the best class in college football entering yesterday, but there were a few late misses that would be the only negative that you could possibly come up with regarding 2018.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was a class that they worked really hard to build this, and some things unraveled for them, I guess, at Ohio State down the stretch. And they lose a couple of national top 100 prospects who'd been committed to this class. You're talking about the Georgia quarterback Emory Jones. You're also talking about a defensive back out of California, Jaden Woodbay. They ended up going to other colleges. Woodbay, I think most people thought he would go to USC, and instead he ended up going to Florida State. Emory Jones, instead of ending up at Ohio State, he ended up going to Florida with the new coach there, Dan Mullen. And so, you know, what you thought was going to be the #1 ranked class in the country, as it turns out, it's still a very good class. In some of the rankings, Ohio State fell behind Georgia, which had such a great late push, it seems, to bring in some top talent. So I think that, you know, at this stage, and again, it's an ongoing situation because there will be more players signing with schools the next today, and then of course tomorrow, and then this period will end, and then you'll go into the regular or the normal National Signing Day on February the 7th. And Steve Wiltfong from 247 Sports put out some statistics that said that 65% of the guys who the total from last year, that's about how many guys signed yesterday as part of the early period. So there is 1/3 of the drama still out there, I guess, to come. But in Ohio State's instance, they signed 21 guys. They're pretty much full up, and they're just hoping to add probably a couple defensive ends here in the last go-round. I know Tyreek Smith is a national top 100 prospect from Cleveland Heights, and he'd be a great addition to this class as things go forward.
Steve, you mentioned the 65% that have signed in FBS football, but you mentioned Ohio State just about full. Most of the guys that I bring on, like yourself, that cover the major programs, they have pretty much the same line that the class is full, that they went out in that early period and tried to gather them up. So I think that even though that 65% is the number across the board, it seems like the elite programs, and even going through, you know, the top 20 to 25 programs, that they've really taken hold of this early signing period. And obviously they have more so the pick of the litter, so the percentages are even higher for the Blue Bloods.
Yeah, our response when you talk to people at Ohio State was they considered this to be the signing day. So they put most or all of their eggs in this basket, and I think this will be the new normal if they keep this. And what we were encountering, or what we were hearing, was prospects were being pressured across the board. Didn't matter if it was Big Ten or Mid-American Conference schools or whoever it was, to make a decision, because college coaches did not want to go past yesterday and still have a need that had not been fulfilled, because there was no way to predict or indicate who or what may still be out there, kind of in the, I'll call it the secondary market, the guys that will sign in February. Now, I brought up Tyreek Smith a moment ago from Cleveland Heights, and he wants to announce his commitment, as a lot of kids have over the years, at one of the 2 big all-star games. So the one on the 4th, the one on the 6th. I want to say Under Armour is on the 4th in Orlando, and the U.S. Army is on the 6th in San Antonio. One of them on ESPN, the other one on NBC. So those are great showcases for the nation's top prospects. And every year, 8 or 10 kids on each broadcast announce their commitment publicly at that time. And I think that's something Tyreek Smith wanted to do. So he did not sign, or at least it hasn't been acknowledged publicly that he has signed with anybody. I think it's Ohio State, Penn State, not sure who else is involved. But that's an example of a kid who made the conscious decision that, hey, I'm going to announce in about 2 weeks, but it's going to be on my terms during the course of that broadcast. I'm sure there's some other kids as well who are doing that as well. But I think Ohio State is definitely the team to beat on Tyreek Smith, and he would help cushion the blow in some regard for Ohio State. They lost a defensive end commitment, Brenton Cox, who ended up signing, believe it or not, with Georgia. So he helps the class at Georgia become the #1 class, and he had been in the Ohio State class. So they had 3 huge decommitments that were all national top 100 players, although Cox was a little earlier in the process. But I guess that gives you an idea, an example of a kid who wanted to wait and will sign with this college in February.